let's face it, most of us have been guilty of buying too much curriculum at some point. I know I certainly have. Whether it's something I found on an amazing deal and then we just never ended up using it, or something I tried to implement and it just didn't go well, or something I intended to implement and then we just didn't have time for. So today I want to chat about, what do I do with curriculum that I've purchased and haven't used? Do I get rid of it right away and clear up some shelf space for us? Do I hold on to it in the hopes that we might use it in the future? Or do I adjust and use it differently than it was intended? Let's chat about it. Hey guys, welcome. Thanks for joining me again today. If you are new to my channel, I am a young homeschooling mom. I have 3 kids. I have a first grader, a kindergartner, and a toddler. I'm also a second generation homeschooler, and this channel is just my outlet for everything homeschool. I hope you guys are having a great day. It's been a little bit bumpy today for me, honestly. And so hopefully that doesn't affect filming. I have a little bit of a headache. It's just one of those that's like just enough to be there and annoy you, but not enough to really take you down and out. So I apologize if things aren't as smooth as normal in advance. But today we're going to chat about, what do I do with homeschool curriculum that I've bought and haven't used. A couple weeks ago, I put a post up on YouTube asking you guys for video ideas, just saying I was feeling a little uninspired. And so this is one of the questions that I got from you guys. So thank you for your help thinking of things that you actually are interested in watching. So hopefully this is helpful for you. And I don't have a one size fits all answer. So what I want to do is kind of walk through the different scenarios of why I would choose different options for different curriculums. I like purging and getting rid of useless things as much as anyone. I get a thrill when I finally get a kick and I'm like, I'm going to go through and get rid of stuff. And then I get rid of way too much stuff. So I understand the, like, it's sitting on a shelf, it's doing no good, let's just get rid of it mindset. But I would be careful of just getting rid of everything that you don't think you're going to use, because down the road things change and different children are different and things just shift. So there are things that I have definitely gotten rid of knowing that we will never use them again. And there are things that I have definitely let sit on the shelf. And who knows, maybe I'll use them in the future. There are a lot of things on there that I've purchased and we are not using currently. I don't know if we will ever use, but I'm leaving them there as resources for us. So I have a little list because, like I said, I've got a minor headache and I just kind of didn't want to be like stalling and thinking up examples for you guys. So I actually wrote down some examples of curriculum that I got rid of so I can talk to you about why I chose just to get rid of it, or curriculum that I've kept and used it differently than it was intended for originally, or curriculum that I'm just leaving on the shelf or that I might try again in scenarios where that might be useful to just leave it and have it available for down the road. So let's just jump right in. Okay, an example of a curriculum that I've gotten rid of. Let's just start with that category. When do I get rid of curriculum? One would be if I just don't like the way it teaches. And it's not a matter of like, my daughter didn't like it or it just wasn't at the right stage for us, but like I really just didn't like it. So one of those would be Zaner Blows Her Handwriting. I used the level K with my older daughter and I was just like, not enough practice. You shape the letters, but it doesn't have enough practice, but it just all around, I didn't like it. I in fact have some videos on some of these. So if I have videos that are going in more depth on any of this, I will link it above for you guys. But that'll be one. Another one that I got rid of because I just didn't like the way it teaches was, this is more recent, but homeschool languages. I don't have anything wrong to say with the curriculum. There's nothing bad about it. I just didn't like the way it teaches. I dreaded teaching it. It wasn't for me. And I know that I will never pick that back up with my kids, even if I have kids who would enjoy it. It's not something I personally will ever enjoy teaching. And so I'm not going to just let it sit on the shelf indefinitely and just use space if I know that I personally hate teaching that curriculum. Again, not that it's a bad curriculum, but I just know it's never going to be one that I'm going to be like, oh, let's try that again. I'm going to look at it and go, no, I don't want to teach that. So I would say if you have a piece of curriculum that you've purchased and you've tried and you're like, either you don't like how it teaches or you don't like the style of teaching and it's just something you have a hard time as a teacher implementing and it's just sitting there, get rid of it. Like, don't use up space for no reason. Some other things that we've gotten rid of are things that I have picked up because I was interested or I'd seen other people like comment on them that they like them. And then as I read through it, I was like, this isn't what I thought it would be, or I don't like this as much as I thought. So 2 examples of that would be the Apologia, Who is God, Who Am I? There's like 4 book series, and I've seen a ton of people love them. And I picked one up at a sale recently for like $5. I thought, oh, well, I'll look at it. And I was looking through it, just like, this is just not, it's just not what I was hoping it would be. It's not what I was thinking. It's just not for me. So I'm not going to hold on to it because it's not what I was going for when I bought it initially. Another example of that is the Jesus Storybook Bible. I know that's not technically curriculum, but we have a Bible time as part of the beginning of our homeschool. And I picked that up and I started reading through it. I went, no, I am not interested in this. I had great, like, smashing reviews from people I super respected. but I did not like the content. So it wasn't what I was expecting. And in fact, if you're interested on more of my thoughts on that one in particular, I did a whole video on why I don't use that storybook Bible. But I would say then if it's something that you've picked up on other people's recommendations and you look through it and you go, this isn't what I was thinking, then you probably won't pick it up again if you don't like it looking through it the first time. So just don't have it waste room on your shelf. Um, Another one that I got rid of was our history that I'd picked up for kindergarten level. I wanted to do a little bit of an introduction to American history with my kindergartner when my oldest was going into kindergarten, and it was just above her. Now, it wasn't a bad curriculum, and so this would be one where I'd be like, well, maybe you want to save it for another kid, but I knew that I didn't want to use that as a history when we really got seriously into history. It was just for a little bit of an introduction, and if it was above my kids as an introduction, then I wasn't going to ever pick it up again with them. This was the year I was going to do that particular curriculum with them because it seemed really gentle and seemed just kind of fun, but it wasn't the style history that I want to teach with long term. And so I just chucked it because, well, I sold or tried to sell it because um, I just knew I would never use it. It wasn't the style of history that I had intended to use. It was supposed to be for a specific time, and it wasn't something I could ever foresee picking up again. So those would be examples of times when I would just be like, get rid of it. You don't need the space on your shelf taken up. It doesn't need to be put in a box in the closet and use up all your storage space. Don't hold on to it. But I would strongly encourage you guys to sell stuff as much as you can. I mean, give it away to another mom who needs it. That's awesome too. But if you're going to just give it to Goodwill, like sell it on Facebook Marketplace, on Facebook groups, look locally. There's often places you can sell or post on your local homeschool groups. Like, get some of your money back if you can. Again, unless you plan to just bless another homeschool family with it. By all means, bless another homeschool family. I would not discourage anyone from doing that. Okay. So that's times that I have just gotten rid of curriculum. There's no point in me holding on to these things because they're never going to be used again. And it's hard to say that with everything, but there are things that no, we're just not going to use that. So don't hold on to it. But times that I would have kept curriculum and used differently. So I have two in the recent past that I have picked up, not used, or decided to use something different and then held on to and pulled them back in. So one of those would be Story of the World. We are not using it as our main history curriculum. I got it again on people's recommendations, and reading through it, it just wasn't what I wanted. I have a whole video on why we decided absolutely not to use that as our main spine. But because I had it, I keep it as kind of a resource. It's not what I'm going to teach with as my main spine, but the books are not bad as you have a child that's older to talk about them, at least in my case. So I could see assigning that to an older child as just kind of a reader to go along with whatever history we're doing that we could discuss with them. Or, as I'm doing right now, I'm using the student pages because we bought the student pages because I thought we were going to use the whole thing. And I'm taking those student pages and using them with the ancient history that we are currently using. So there's ways of using it as it's not meant to be used. And that's what I will do with that one. It will be a supplement, not a main spine. And I will introduce it as I see fit, but we're not going to use it as our curriculum. Another example of a curriculum that I bought and didn't use, but then pulled back later in kind of differently would be the Ordinary Parent's Guide to Teaching Reading. I had picked this one up on recommendations from my sister. She loved it. And I'd seen a lot of good things. I read the Walter Mind. I really liked a lot of things they had to say. So it's like, we'll just order it. I ordered it. And looking through it, it was just too advanced for the age my child was when she started reading. My oldest was a super intuitive reader, super fast learner, but she was really young when we started. And it wasn't a good fit for her at that age. I have, again, nothing bad to say about it. So I got Logic of English. We've used that with her. I loved it. And I just shelved the other one. But then when we finished Logic of English level C, I decided not to move into level D for various reasons that I'm not going to get into in this video. If you're interested in that, you can comment below. But she still needed some work with her longer words. So like multi-syllable words, breaking up syllables. And so I was like, well, what should I use with that? And so I was like, well, I have this book, Ordinary Parent's Guide to Teaching Reading, sitting here. And the last third of the book goes through multi-syllable words and addressing some of those harder concepts. So we had finished her reading program. She was reading great. I was really happy with it. But we pulled in that Ordinary Parent's Guide again and just opened it to the last third and used it to just refresh and build on the things that she was struggling on. So in that case, I didn't get rid of it. And I'm glad because it ended up being a great supplement to pull in after she was learning how to read, just to reinforce the things that she was having difficulty with from a different perspective than the curriculum we'd already done. I didn't want to go through the exact same thing. It kind of came at it from a different view. And so that was a great way of using that one. So that would be like an example of a curriculum that you could keep. And especially because she was my first one, who knows that down the road I'm going to have a kid that works better with than it did with her. If I have a kid who's a little bit older when they're learning to read versus a 4-year-old who's wanting to start to learn to read. So those would be examples of curriculum that I've used differently or times that you could see them being a supplement down the road. Another thing that you might do is just hold on to them, right? There are curriculums that you've bought because like I said, it's a good deal, or it just didn't fit into the schedule, or it didn't work the first time around. But that doesn't mean it'll never work. And it's way cheaper just to hold on to something you've bought than to sell it at a loss and then buy it again down the road because now you need it, right? So, some examples of curriculums that we are not using currently or haven't worked very well for us, but I'm not getting rid of would be Story of Civilization. I picked this up as our ancient history this year as the main spine, and it was just too advanced for my kids. It was a little too old for them. And so, as we did a couple of weeks and we gave it a good fair try, I just went, you know what? Let's just stick with the picture books and the other spine that I was using. They're a little bit more age appropriate, and I'll just put this one on shelf. Now, I'm not getting rid of it because I still think it's a great spine for ancient history. I could see letting an older child go through it on their own, or maybe the second time we go through it, or using it as a supplement down the road. I don't know. It's a good history book that I like. There's nothing wrong with it. And I could absolutely see it being useful down the road for their child or pulling it in as a resource. Another one would be the Building Spelling Skills series by, I want to say this is Christian Liberty Press that did this one. So I had a homeschool friend who was getting rid of a lot of curriculum, and she had the entire series of the Building Spelling Skills grade 1 through 8 in brand new condition. And so she sold them to me for a good price. And I thought, great, I'll use these. And I liked them. And I still do like them to a degree. But then I did a little bit of a deeper dive into spelling and kind of how I wanted to teach it. And I saw this other resource that was geared more towards word study, which is what we're using now. But I have this entire spelling workbook curriculum that I haven't gotten rid of. And I thought about getting rid of it, but then I thought, well, right now this word study approach is working for my oldest child. Wonderful. Let's keep going. But what if the next child, she's not quite as intuitive with her language arts? Maybe she needs a little bit of a different approach. I have this entire spelling series that I actually do like the way it teaches, even though it's not what we're pursuing now. If what we're doing now doesn't work, having that on hand is great. Same thing with, I was given a copy of the teacher's manuals for All About Spelling. Not the newest color editions. I think the spelling's in color now. I don't know. But not the newest editions. But because it was given to me, it's like something that I'm like, well, I'm not planning to use it. But if I really had a child who struggled in spelling, like if this was our hard point, I would absolutely pull in All About Spelling. I've heard amazing things about it. So that would be a case of something that I've gotten, and I'm not going to just get rid of it because we're not using it now. I'm kind of going to keep it on the shelf because it's way cheaper to have something on your shelf and use it later than, like I said, to sell it for less than you bought it for normally and then be like, oh, shoot, I wish I hadn't bought that, or I wish I hadn't sold that. Let's pull that back in. Another example about something, or a couple curriculums that I am not getting rid of quite yet, would be the science that we tried this year, scientific connections through inquiry. Sorry. We tried that with my kids this summer, and I said, it's not a good fit. I don't think we're going to use it. And that's true. It's not a good fit. And we're not going to use it this year. But I think I would be inclined to maybe try it when they're a couple years older and see if it worked better. It wasn't bad. The conversations didn't facilitate like I'd hoped. And maybe that's partly their ages. And so it's one of those that I don't know that we're ever going to pull back in. But I'm not quite ready to be like completely, I don't like this. I kind of think if I were going to give it a fair try, I'd need to try it when they're a little bit older. So I'm leaving that on the shelf for now. If in a couple of years we try it again and I still don't like it, then I would get rid of it. Or if in a couple of years I found a science that we loved way more, then I'd be like, okay, we're obviously not going to go back to this. We have something we love. So it's one of those that I'm just kind of leaving there because it's not hurting me, taking up space, but I might pull it back in. I don't really think I will, but I might. Another one will be exploring nature with children, which we picked up hoping to do last year as a little bit of a nature study. And I just had too much on my plate. It didn't happen. It was just not the priority. And so we dropped it. But it's a great nature study curriculum. And maybe we'll pull it in the future, maybe over a summer or in a more relaxed way, or when we have more independent work with my older kids. And this is something we want to do as a family. Like, it's not a bad curriculum, and I have no reason that I wouldn't use it if the opportunity opened up. So I think as you go through your curriculum that you have purchased, that you have too much of, and you're like, look, I bought this and I didn't use it, I think you need to evaluate why you didn't use it, and that will really tell you what to do with it. If you didn't use it because you just hate the way it taught, if you didn't use it because it just didn't work for you, get rid of it. If you didn't use it because it was for this time and it just never happened, and you're like, we're never going to pull that back in, if you're sure of that, then there was no point in just leaving it on your shelf. But if it's something that you could pull in as a supplement in other ways, or it's something that you're like, maybe there's a time and place for this. I don't really see where right now, but it's not something I dislike. It's something that I could see using again. Then it is, I've said this 3 times already, but it is much cheaper to hold on to something than to have to purchase it again down the road. Anyhow, those are my thoughts for you. That's kind of the way I gauge what I do with it. I do have a huge shelf of homeschool curriculum in one of our bedrooms, and that's the way it is. And I honestly don't mind that. It's a great resource for me if If I'm like down there, like, I need something different, I have all these options to go to. And it's also something I do not mind lending out to other homeschool moms who don't have maybe quite as big of a budget as me. Being like, oh, I've got this resource on the shelf that I'm not using right now. I don't know if we're going to use, but go ahead and use it and then give it back when you're done. Like having some extra resources on hand to lend out is also not a terrible thing. So those are my thoughts. I would love to know what you guys do with the curriculum that you buy. Uh, I know I'm not the only one who overbuys. So what are your thoughts? I would welcome any thoughts, any comments. Thanks for joining me again, and I hope you guys are having a really good day.